Well, here's the second episode of the hobby progress vlog for our Ork Robot fella here. And I've made some pretty significant progress. I got a good day this past Saturday where I was able to sit down and prime. Well, actually, first I had to add more stuff to the model. You'll notice here I added this cool skull with a big knife sticking through it in his shoulder pad. I wanted to have some sort of skull up on the shoulder, kind of like that big Age of Sigmar orc Mega Nob or Mega Boss or whatever the heck he is with the giant like dragon skull on the shoulder. I always thought that was a cool look, so I thought, well, I should try to find some sort of cool skull. And when you purchase the GW Big Boxo Skulls, which is not the technical name for it, but you know what I'm talking about, it does have this one giant honking skull in it, and it worked pretty much perfectly here. So I added that and a couple other little bits and bobs, not too much, and then primed them all black with my airbrush, and then let him sit a good portion of Saturday. And then Saturday night, after doing a bunch of stuff during the day, I came back and I started painting. I mainly just started with a dark red, kind of a flat red, I think, from Vallejo, and went through and did all the parts that I obviously wanted to be red. I didn't want to do the entire guy this way because I knew there's a lot of silver that I still wanted to be in here, but I felt that the red was going to be something that was going to contrast quite nicely with the green face. And since there's so little green in this entire robot, because there's so little orc within this robot, I wanted to make sure that the orc face does pop once I get finished painting it. I went through afterwards and then started doing some dry brushing with silver because I want this red to look like this was the original color that was painted onto this robot when it was originally put into service, and then after the orcs grabbed it and spirited it away, and then, put our friend the Knob into this chassis. Since then, they haven't been super keen on necessarily keeping the paint job real pristine, so they just basically kind of let it go. And I did that with a lot of silver dry brush. I want to go back and make more chips, and then maybe a little bit of rust here and there. Not too much. I don't want to go crazy with it, but some sort of maybe corrosion-y rust kind of stuff. I want them to be kind of grungy. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want, like these big silver shoulder pads, not the big red one with the skull on it, but these other silver shoulder pads. I'm trying to decide if I want to try to get fancy and paint something in there, like some sort of, I'd love to be able to sit there and paint the black and white checkers that you see very frequently in orcs. It might be a tough spot to do it. I certainly couldn't do it on the one on this side that's underneath the giant skull, but the one on this side is pretty well exposed. I might be able to do that. I need to try to figure out what to do with the boss pole too, like what kind of look am I going for with that. I don't know, is it going to just stay red because he wants to go faster, or is it going to be maybe some blue or even a yellow? I don't really want to go the yellow, and my fear is if I go blue with the boss pole, and you have a little bit of green in the face and the rest of it's red, it's just going to be this RGB kind of situation. So I don't know. If I go yellow, then it's not quite primary colors. These are all kind of things that you do want to try to think about before you even start painting, thinking not only like, well, what color should this part be, but also how's it going to look with the rest of the model. In some situations, you don't get a choice. Some situations, tires are generally tire colored, that kind of thing. You can't go, well, geez, what if the tires were bright blue? I mean, yeah, you can, technically. It's your model. But in general, people would go, why are your tires bright blue? And that kind of thing. In this situation, there's a lot to be kind of determined on the fly as I want to, which is kind of one of the things I really like about miniature painting in general. There's not going to be really a ton of detail painted into this guy. Like, I'm going to have to paint. He's got like a weird little headlight, on the right above his helmet. That's part of the robot. I'm going to have to paint a little bit of yellow for the big switch on the back for the grot leader to be able to turn him on and off. And I like the idea that when the grot turns him off, the body stops moving, but the head, because it's still technically alive, because he's an orc, just is like, hey, could you, and that's how he keeps him in line. He's like, I'll just turn you off, and then you'll just be up there just yelling at people, but we won't do anything about it, and you won't be able to go anywhere. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on the back there. And then I've got to do the base, obviously. And I always texture my bases before I prime. I see a lot of people who do the base stuff afterwards. I always, do it before. I did a video about it a long time ago. Pachow. And and then I paint the bases last, pretty much the bases, and then of course the rim around the bottom. So yeah, he's a lot of fun, but he's a pretty quick paint. I think all my orcs are gonna be pretty quick. Because I'm just kind of cranking out a fun kill team, and I think it's gonna be cool to do that. I've already started working on some of the orc boys, the ones that are going to have the fezzes. I'll have to post some pictures on Instagram and stuff once those guys are ready to go. But I don't see myself taking tons of time to do a lot of wet blending and all of that. It's a pretty quick knockdown paint job, but it's a lot of fun. The build is fun. I'm really looking forward to adding in all the extra little weird features, like I'm going to put soot on the end of his gun and the end of the it's a combi scorcha or whatever. I'm really looking forward to painting this skull on his shoulder pad. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I want it to look old, maybe. I thought for a while about actually having it be very fresh, but then I thought, well, I should probably put chunks of flesh and stuff on it, and then I didn't really want to go down that particular road. So I think we're going to keep it an old trophy for this guy, and then at that point, do I keep it very sun bleached like it kind of is now, but add some more stuff to it, or do I start to darken it up a little bit, that kind of thing. And then I still got to paint his face, and I'm going to really try to make the green, like I've used a real kind of olive drab green for the skin as the base, but I'm going to throw in some wash and then kind of highlight up again, and I want to have some kind of real green, bright green almost, to kind of not like a neon green or anything like that, but definitely a good Kelly green for my highlights to really make the face pop in that sea of red and silver and black. So yeah, these are the things I'm thinking about, and next video you'll see it and it'll be all done.